Good morning. I'm Doug Thomas, and for this segment of the Public File, my guest is Anna Bankert. She's the Director of Development for Volunteers of America, Northern California and Northern Nevada. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're available this morning. And of course, before we get started, you have a very famous last name. Any relation to Adrienne?
Yes, all the fame is hers. I cannot take credit for any of it, but yes, she's my sister-in-law, and we're so proud of her. She came out with a book this year that has been very inspirational to many of us, so we're very, very proud.
Perfect timing on that book, absolutely. And of course, Adrienne used to be on TV here in Sacramento. It's so great for all of us to see her so successful and know that she got her start right here in Sacramento.
Yeah, we're very proud.
All right, Anna. Well, I have heard of Volunteers of America since I was a kid, but I'm still not sure exactly what you guys do. So let's start by telling us all about Volunteers of America.
Like you said, it's interesting because we have been a bit of a community's best-kept secret, but we've been around. We're actually celebrating our 125th year next year nationally.
Sure.
So we've been around for a while, but here locally, we are present in Northern California and Northern Nevada. We're in Sacramento County and the surrounding counties, as well as in Oakland and Reno. And the majority of our programs focus on getting individuals that are facing homelessness out of that situation by providing them tools and services to ensure that they regain stability. And we're also one of the largest providers of low-income housing for seniors, which is something that not a lot of people know. We do focus a lot on the homeless population and what we can do to serve every individual that is faced with that situation.
We've all had to do the COVID pivot. Your job is tough enough without that. So how have things changed this year now that we're dealing with the pandemic?
It's definitely been challenging. Many of our programs have had to change the way that they take in new clients. Many of them have quarantine rooms for new residents that the residents have to be in up to 14 days before they can get in with the mass population. Let's say they are putting safety precautions in place every day. The staff is sanitizing the common surfaces. They are taking temperatures. They're doing health checks. It's added a lot of work to our teams, but also it's created a lot of opportunities for conversations and just letting the men, women, and families that we serve know that we want them to be healthy and we want them to continue their process to regain stability in a safe and healthy way. Yes, it's created a bit of a longer stay for our shelter residents, but we are working as fast as we can to get individuals out of shelters and into housing to create more room for those that are immediately homeless who need the shelter beds.
None of us have ever dealt with the pandemic, and so we're all kind of learning as we go. And it's great to know that, it's great to know that you guys are just, taking care of business as usual as best you can. And speaking of which, who do you serve primarily through the programs?
We have a variety of programs, but some of them that I would like to highlight, we do have a few emergency shelters that serve men, and we also have a women's shelter. We have a family shelter, and these are emergency shelters that are meant for a temporary stay. But we also have some very good veteran programs where we provide various services from rental assistance to utility assistance, employment services. You name it, we do it, and we try to support our veterans in the best way we can through those programs. But we also have a senior safe house, which is a very unique program, not very common in Sac County, and we serve seniors that have suffered abuse or neglect. This program has been with us we're going on our 10th year, actually. We serve about 90 seniors every year. They are referred to us by Adult Protective Services, and it's an incredible blessing for us to be able to serve these seniors in that way.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. What are your goals for the men, women, and children who go through your programs? What are you guys hoping to achieve?
I would say that everyone that comes through our doors has a different story. They have various barriers that they're trying to overcome. So the goal can be very different. For some, it's simply as raising their income, getting employment.
Sure.
Maybe they have some gaps in their resume, so trying to figure out ways to help them fill those gaps. For some, it's housing. For many of them, the goal is to get them into permanent housing. And then we have some incredible stories of men that have been incarcerated for 20 years who have gotten their first paycheck in 20 years. It really depends. I would say the goals are very different, and that's one of the beautiful things about the work that we do is that we meet each individual where they're at, and we try to figure out what is the best journey that they can take that will get them to that sustainability, to that independence that we all want.
One of those things about what you do is no 2 days are ever the same, and the primary function is to improve the lives of others, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And like you mentioned, we do serve quite a few children in our programs, and this year has been especially challenging for them. So our teams have been very creative in serving them, and our community has stepped up in such a big way. We have different groups dropping off birthday goodies, sort of like birthday in a box,
sure,
to our programs to still celebrate those kids whose birthdays are coming up. We have groups dropping off craft supplies. Every summer we do Operation Backpack, and this year it looked a little bit different, but we still had such incredible support, and we were able to provide supply kits to thousands of children. We're doing the best that we can to keep the kids positive, to keep them interested in school, and our staff really supports them in that and makes sure that they are accessing their virtual classrooms and doing everything that they need to do to stay on top of things. Yeah, it's been a challenging year, but we've learned so much, and the community support means so much to our residents and those that we serve.
What are some common misconceptions about the homeless population, Anna?
I would say that some things that we hear often is, well, they're lazy or they don't want to work, which was so not the case from what we've seen. I think oftentimes what we do is preventative services, to be honest. Many homeless individuals do have jobs, but they just can't keep up with paying the rent. The rents are hiking. We try to support with that and give them that little extra bit that can keep them in their permanent housing. We used to run this incredible program out at Mather, very heavily focused on employment, and the majority of the individuals that came through that program successfully completed it. I mean, we had over 5,000 individuals successfully graduate and go into jobs that provided them what they needed to stay independent. I can assure you that if people are given the opportunity, they will take it. If they're given the tools, they will take them and work hard. Some of the barriers that many of the homeless men and women face are they simply don't have an ID. I mean, we used to see huge percentages of homeless men and women come through our programs that did not have a valid ID, so that's a huge barrier. Another one is bad credit, and that's something that we try to help with. That's definitely a misconception. Another common one is addiction to drugs and alcohol, which is rarely the sole cause of homelessness, and I would say it's more of the response to it. Many of the men and women living on the streets today have faced tremendous trauma that they need support to get over. There are too many veterans on our streets, and we do need to do a better job in serving them. And it's not a one-answer-fits-all type of situation. Every one of them has an incredible story and has the trauma that they really need to deal with and get support in learning how to get over so that they can get to that next step. I think I can go on and on about the misconceptions.
Right. You nailed a couple of them, though, because, a lot of us think, oh, they're homeless. They just must be, lazy or drunk and on drugs and stuff like that. The two words in the English language that should never go together, homeless veteran.
Absolutely.
You guys are working to solve that problem, and I think that's one of the things. But tell me a little bit more about what makes Volunteers of America different from the other organizations.
One of the things that we have been really working hard on in the last 5 years is the idea of trauma-informed care and moral injury. And it's something that we're working with Dr. Rita Brock on. And it came out of studies on veterans and their experiences when they're in active duty and, of course, PTSD. But it's the whole idea that sometimes we're forced to make a decision that goes against our moral compass,
Sure.
which creates the wound to our soul. And we can't get past that. We can't even love ourselves. We don't even think God can love us. That's something that we've been studying a lot and trying to implement not only with veterans but with the homeless population, because many of them do experience things when they're out living on the river. Things are done to them that they feel so horrible about, that they hate themselves about, and it's something that our staff is being trained in to be trauma-informed and really address that with the residents in our programs. It's definitely something that is a little bit more complex, I guess, and we are still developing, but we are addressing that trauma within our programs and making sure that the emotional and mental body is taken care of as well as the physical body. And of course, I think something that's not very well known by most is that we are faith-based. The way we practice our faith is by providing services in a compassionate and loving way. We don't proselytize. We're non-denominational, so we accept all faiths, but that's definitely something that we have not talked about as much.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that about Volunteers of America.
Yeah, and I think this too provides us an opportunity to have conversations with the residents that come through our programs. Some of them do rely on their faith a lot to get through the difficult times, and others are just curious. And so it's wonderful to have that on the table, and the opportunity is there if someone chooses to have that faith conversation.
You're listening to The Public File. I'm Doug Thomas, and my guest this morning is Anna Bankert. She is the Director of Development for Volunteers of America, Northern California and Northern Nevada, online at voa-ncnn.org. Anna, this is a tough time of year to be homeless, so how do the cold winter months impact the men, women, and children you serve?
It's definitely very hard, and I don't know. Many of us can't picture what it feels like to be sleeping in a car this time of year, or let alone on the street. So the cold is a very difficult time, and every year we run a campaign called Share the Warmth and really provide the basic necessities to keep individuals warm: blankets, ponchos, socks, of course. It's just the common things. Throughout our shelters, we provide warm meals, 3 warm meals a day. It's more than sharing that physical warmth. I think sharing of hope and a little bit of joy to our shelter residents is extremely important, especially this year. The challenges have been more extreme than ever, I think. And so Share the Warmth is about so much more than providing those basic necessities. It's about reminding the homeless men, women, and children that we serve that there's a community that cares about them and that wants to see them succeed. They want to see them become independent. So those are some of the things that we try to do around this time of year.
What are some of your current needs, and how can our listeners help support Volunteers of America?
Blankets are a huge need. Warm
stuff
blankets.
This is stuff you and I take for granted, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Another need at many of our programs is journals. Journaling is very therapeutic for a lot of our residents, so that's something that we try to provide. And socks and gloves and scarves, just those warm things that they can wrap themselves in. an easy way to support is by texting Share the Warmth to 44321, and they'll receive a link, and they can choose to donate or go to our website, like you mentioned, and find other ways to support us.
Share the Warmth, 44321.
You got it, yeah. And I think just the meals portion, that's another piece of our work that many don't know about. We do have a central kitchen with a team, and they prep over 1,000 meals every day for our shelter residents. So, the food cost is definitely huge every month for us, and any support in that area is so welcomed, and we're beyond grateful for.
Do you have a story you can share with us, one that's really stood out to you?
Oh, my goodness. I have so many. But one that is just incredible and so powerful, and it really shows the importance of never giving up on someone. We call him Pitbull Dave, and he is a Vietnam War veteran that we met 3 years ago. And Dave, he came back from the war feeling like he hated himself for the things that he had to do.
Sure.
And almost from the moment he stepped off that plane, he walked to the river, and he was homeless ever since. So spent 30-plus years out on the river, and became very well known by other homeless individuals. But his health was deteriorating significantly. And our team at one of our shelters never gave up on him. They continued to go out and reach out to him and encourage him to come in. And he finally did, and really got his health taken care of. I mean, our team literally held his hand throughout the whole process, and he accessed some benefits that he was not aware of and really, really got back on his feet. But one of the incredible things about him is that the moment he stepped into our triage shelter, this was a shelter we ran that was very low barrier, so that meant individuals could come in right off the river with whatever items they had, whatever pets they had, and we welcomed them. But once he came into the program, 80 of the individuals that were out there on the river with him followed him in because they trusted him so much. And many of them are still housed in permanent housing today. But Pitbull Dave, he is just a remarkable man. He got his health in check. He is living independently now. He is working every day at our shelters, encouraging men and women who are facing barriers similar to his. And he continues to grow, and he is one of those individuals that maybe we would have overlooked on the streets, but someone saw him, and someone said, I care and I see you, and his life completely changed. And I think that's what it takes. Sometimes the road is a little bit longer or more difficult for some of the men and women we serve, but it's all worth it, because in the end, we get stories like Pitbull Dave's, and like I said, he's housed and healthy, and living a life that he deserves. So, that's one of the stories that I always love to share.
Oh, that's great. The Pitbull Dave story has given me goosebumps, so you know it's a good one.
Yeah, he's remarkable, and I have to tell you, once he got into his apartment, it's not like his journey ended, meaning the barriers were still there. He lived in a tent in his room for 8 months once he got into his apartment because he could not get used to that lifestyle. So our team had to constantly work with him and encourage him and be there for him even after he moved out of the shelter. And I think that's an important thing to note, is that many of the men and women on the river are so not used to that indoor lifestyle. Putting them into housing and just kind of hoping that they're going to be okay is not always the answer.
Right.
Those supportive services, that care needs to continue. And we saw that very clearly with him. And of course now he's doing great. But
that's all thanks to you guys.
Well, us and the community, like I said, we can't take credit for all the work that we do because it would not be possible without our donors, our volunteers, our incredible funders, and other community partners. I mean, everything that we do is really a reflection of them and their continued generosity.
Right. And speaking of which, I was just going to ask you, my next question is, are you looking for new volunteers, Anna?
That's been such a difficult thing for us. So we are not a volunteer placing agency, but we do use some volunteers here and there. This year, not so much. It's been extremely difficult because we cannot have volunteers in our programs. So I would say, unfortunately, not right now, but we are working on finding some creative ways to do some virtual volunteering. I think one of the things that we have had the privilege of receiving is a few videos of volunteers reading books to our children, which we've played at our family shelter. So that's something that we welcome. But again, we're still trying to figure that one out, and I think a lot of local nonprofits are as well. You know, it's definitely a tricky one.
No
Virtual
kidding.
volunteering.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, we're running out of time, but before we go, please share a little bit more about the Share the Warmth campaign and how our listeners can help.
Absolutely. So the Share the Warmth campaign, if individuals can support that, all of the funds are going to provide warm blankets, socks, gloves, ponchos, as well as warm meals to men, women, and children facing homelessness. And the way to support, the easiest way would be to text Share the Warmth to 44321 and donate as much as or as little as you can. We appreciate any support.
Share the Warmth, 44321. Anna, thank you so much for your time this morning. Anna Bankert is the Director of Development for Volunteers of America, Northern California and Northern Nevada, online at voa-ncnn.org. And let's share that texting code again one more time. You can text Share the Warmth to 44321. Anna, thank you so much for your time this morning.
And thank you.
This has been The Public File. If you'd like support for your nonprofit, email sacpsa@entercom.com, sacpsa@entercom.com. I'm Doug Thomas. Be good to each other, and thanks for listening.